to steal from the Empire? You just walk in like you belong. They can't imagine that someone like me would ever get inside their house.
We are finally getting some answers about Cassian Andor. We're finally learning more about who this man is who becomes this, resistance martyr. What was the biggest question you had about him that you wanted answered through this show?
How come someone is willing to sacrifice everything for a cause? What needs to happen to a man to make a choice like this, Where does that clarity come from? Where does that commitment come from, But there's many others, like, what is he talking about when he says he's been fighting since he was 6 years old? What is that dark past he refers to, We'll find out where Cassian was 5 years before, when he wasn't aware of what he was capable of. And when, basically the Empire ruled and it was really like dark times in the galaxy, that's when we start here. Look, you got the money, I got the box. What else is there to talk about?
I'll give you another 1,000 credits to tell me how you got it.
Another 1,000.
Done.
Mon Mothma has become, such a beloved character in the Star Wars universe. How does Andor really stand apart from anything Star Wars has done before?
First of all, I think what's different with this piece is Tony Gilroy's writing. We know him from the Bourne films, from Michael Clayton. People will have seen those extraordinary films. They have this spy thriller element to them. They have a tautness of narrative. So we meet Cassian in a way we've never seen Cassian before. And also we meet Mon Mothma in a place we've never met her before. We meet her steeped in empire. We meet her dressed like we've never seen her, looking like we've never seen her. She's having to navigate a political environment that is dangerous. She's having to use her voice to create opposition to Palpatine, who we know is a soon-to-be dictator. So for the first time with Mon Mothma, we see not just the figure, not just the leader, we also meet the woman. Yeah. We learn what it costs to be that woman. We learn how dangerous it is. There are layers to this that are intriguing and suspenseful and deeply exciting.
How did making this show compare to what your expectations for a Star Wars project would even be like?
I mean, I think it exceeded all of my expectations. I think, I really imagined that I was either going to be on a green screen or that I would have been, in front of like a virtual set or on a studio. And it was quite the opposite. I was, the sets were so tangible and practical. They created an entire city. Like Ferrix actually exists. I was there. It's crazy to even say it. I didn't expect that at all.
It was completely different to what I expected the Star Wars scripts to look like at the very beginning. I had to kind of like flip back and go look at the title. No, this is Star Wars. This is Star Wars, because it was so human. It was so real. It had so many things and parallels to felt like I could see, within history and also what's going on and in the current climate. And so I just felt like, wow, this is, as you say, incredibly grown up, gritty, messy. It's complicated. All these characters are in flux, trying to find out where they belong, what cause they should be supporting. Are they destined for something greater?
Let's call it war.
It's only literally in the last week we've been saying that we're suddenly realizing, oh my God, we're actually in Star Wars. Like, this might be kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
It means so much to people, Angelique. Like, we had a young boy, a 10-year-old boy interview us earlier. And we thought, like, I got really emotional because we've been saying a lot over the last 2 days that what's so special about this is that a 10-year-old and a 70-year-old could meet and talk about Star Wars and both be as excited as each other. That doesn't happen in any other show. Star Wars is the one that brings generations of people together, and we get to be part of that now.
Yeah.
It's such a privilege.
Yeah.
Are you a fish or are you a thief?
How how different did shooting Andor feel than making the movie?
It felt very different. I tell you why. First of all, because I felt much more ready. In Rogue One, I felt like I was thrown into a vehicle already moving. Here I had to put gasoline on this one. I was there with a team trying to make it work and pushing, and then moving and then jumping and getting our seatbelts on. I am part of this project since the beginning. Therefore I feel I own it much more. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy Rogue One or I don't feel proud of it. I feel really proud. It's a film I really like also as audience, but here I don't know. I mean, it's been the last 4 years of my life, so it feels very personal.
What I'm asking is this. Wouldn't you rather give it all to something real?
This is a character that you've been playing in various iterations for 17 years now. To be able to dive into those layers, was there one in particular that you'd kind of been sowing the seeds of, or had already kind of had your ideas about what it was like for her?
I've always been deeply curious about what her personal life was.
Yeah.
And I have spoken to different producers or different people in the past about this, and Tony and I obviously spoke about this. And what he has created in his writing for Mon Mothma in her home life is something that informs the character, that fills the character in such a really great way. Even before I got the opportunity to play her when I was younger, I watched the scene that Caroline Blackstone had done in Return of the Jedi. There was this line that many Star Wars fans quote about many Bothans died.
As long as everyone thinks I'm an irritation, there's a good chance they'll miss what I'm really doing.
These are parts you guys could potentially be playing for decades to come. Yes, it's about Cassian becoming a rebel, but it also shows Karn and Miro as their own kind of rebels within the Empire. So Denise, I'll start with you. What was it like diving into that aspect?
You are the first
of all,
person
to say that, right? We have just said, that's a high five from both of us, because we have been saying this, like, especially in the last hour since we discovered that it's a really good answer to a question. We are having our own, like most of the characters are all having their own rebellion within the rebellion. Yeah. But I think that this is one of the first times in Star Wars, not that I've seen any other Star Wars, but Kyle tells me that that this is the first time you see characters that would be considered to be villains. You see what is making them, what is driving them to do the things that they do. Dedra is in this job that she absolutely, like, she worships the Empire. And so she wants it to be the very best empire. And she's in this situation where she's seeing messy, lazy people who aren't doing a good job. And she wants to sort that out. So I think like people will like sort of be cheering for her in a way. And then you'll remember that, you know, she's essentially a fascist. And then you'll have to question your support of her. I can no longer speak. The word fascist is quite difficult to say when you've been at a junket for 2 days, but there you go.
Well, Kyle, to that same end, how did you emotionally work yourself around Karn's pursuits, good or bad or otherwise, as you find them in this?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say good or bad, because my initial conversations with Tony were to the effect of him going, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Where does he end up? I don't know. But, you know, this is where he starts off and this is where he wants to go. So I was like, oh, this is really great, actually. So I can play that gray area. He is sending his energies into the Imperial structure system where he finds safety, where he finds order, where he finds a place where he can ascend to the highest levels by doing some very bad things, but by actually trying to keep order and by demanding excellence from everyone around him and himself. So like those qualities could exist on either side. It just so happens, you know, that he is where he is. And his foil is Cassian Andor, you know, who's this guy who's just doing whatever he wants to do, however he wants to do it. And that just makes him so angry. And he finds his kind of twin flame in Dedra.
You know, you kind of touched on the scope of this show. It is truly epic. What was the piece of costuming or prop or something that really helped you say, this is who Bix is?
My vest. I think getting on that vest and feeling that sort of structure sort of helped me walk a certain way, especially in that beginning scene. And then it just did something to me. It was really cool. I was in love with that vest. I wish I would have kept it.
The whole uniform for me, you have to really find the way that you stand in that uniform. And but I had a question one day. My character was working overnight or something, and I just wanted to undo the top button, you know, the way a man would undo his tie. And I wanted to do that for Dedra, and everything had to stop. They had to make a phone call about whether we were allowed to undo the top. And it turns out you're not allowed to do that. And like the first director, Ben Karen, there's a shot where he shows me put the jacket on, and like she's wearing this blouse. And he came to me and he said, I've never, like nobody has ever shown what's underneath an imperial uniform. And I thought, oh my God, that's a thing. Like, that's essentially, for me, it's like a metaphor of the whole show, isn't it? You know, we're showing what's underneath all of this.
Yeah. And I think for Cyril, certainly the uniform, because he's modified it so much to his own liking.
I love that.
But it was interesting to, you know, later on in the episodes, he comes home for a bit and spends some time with his mother, which is so
In
on Star Wars
Wars.
itself, right? It's an
moves
incredible
home.
move. But seeing where he came from and the anonymity of that apartment, and seeing his mother and what she looks like and how she's put together, and what cereal he used to eat for breakfast as a kid, which is still the cereal that she's serving him in the morning, is like, oh, that is Cyril.
As someone who knows this Star Wars world as well as you do, you know, what was the element that felt the most real and also kind of the most different from Star Wars that you'd been in before?
Well, I think what Star Wars has always done in every version of it is marry the universal with the intimate. So what is at the heart of this big science fiction adventure are people. And Andor really leans into that, the stories of the people. And the sets that Luke Hull, our designer, has created for us as actors to inhabit were just a dream. They are so evocative, so detailed. As an actor, it's such a gift because you get to inhabit it in a way that really only elevates the piece.
B2, who's soon to become everyone's new favorite droid. How would you describe this character?
She's just pure love, you know, the best friend you can have. And as an actor, it's incredible to be working with a droid that exists. It has a voice, you know, it moves, it's very expressive also. The design and the team behind it is just spectacular, you know, like I wanted to take him home.
I'm tired of losing.